Hello and welcome to the Film Angle. I'm Alex,
And I'm Kris.
and today we are talking about 3 new movies. We have seen all the movies, Kris.
We've seen all the movies. We've completed the movies.
We have seen all the movies that have released this week, apparently.
Apparently.
No, we haven't really, but we have seen 3 new releases, and we're here to talk about them. And the 3 new releases we're going to talk about today are David Fincher's new film, The Killer,
hmm
and the French. It is fully. Is it a fully French production, Kris?
French/Swiss production.
Something like that. So Justine Triet's Anatomy of a Fall,
hmm
and finally the new Todd Haynes film, May December.
Yeah. Yeah. A real mixed bag. We got two kind of auteur filmmakers thrown in the mix here. Like guys who, whenever, we're talking Fincher and Todd Haynes here, whenever they make something, people usually kind of turn their head and kind of notice. Probably Fincher more so. He's kind of like amassed this sort of cult following close to Nolan, but not quite. But he's up there, isn't he?
He really
Um,
is. He really
and
is. And
and
I
and
think
yeah.
like sometimes underrated in like that kind of prestige director category. Because when you think of some of his films, a lot of them uh, are 5-star films in my opinion. Fight Club, Gone Girl, Girl with the Dragon Tattoos, pretty high up there
Yeah,
for me.
Seven, of course.
Seven,
I think Zodiac is probably my
Zodiac.
favorite.
Zodiac's incredible. Zodiac's incredible. I forgot about that one. Yeah, that's a 5-star film for me as well. Like so many films from
I
David
haven't seen
Fincher.
Mank.
Oh, did you not see Mank in the
I didn't
end?
catch up with Mank. I need to, and because I
Oh,
know
I
didn't his dad like wrote the script back in the '90s and everything. Like it's a really big long project, and yeah, I need to watch
yeah,
that.
yeah. I didn't like Mank.
Yeah,
I
I know
didn't
it's a
like it.
divisive film. People either really, really love Mank or they don't. So I'm eager
Yeah,
to catch up with that one some point. But
yeah,
yeah, I'm with you. Every Fincher movie that I have seen, I've been pretty on board with, and that's just kind of his ability to kind of put the coldest things ever on screen. Um, and just kind of have enough human characters in there just to kind of repulse you from the coldness enough is just so clever. And I think, I rewatch Zodiac the other week, and that movie is just incredible. I mean, in terms of biopics, or stories, or fictional stories is how they go, but it was just absolutely so enthralling. I forgot how scary that movie is as soon as the opening scene hits, and like I
mm,
actually, my heart is pounding out my chest, just trying to piece this whole story together. And obviously it's a spoiler alert, but everybody knows the Zodiac killer never got caught, but still for this nearly 3 hour movie you're like constant hope, and you're on the edge of your seat the whole time, and he's just so good at that. I think the only film that never really worked for me out of his was Alien 3. That's a film he goes on the record for saying that he doesn't really enjoy
yeah,
anyway, and that he had a hard time making that film. But yeah, he kind of came out the barrel kind of fully loaded. He was already smoking gun whenever he came around as a filmmaker, and he's just been pretty consistent for me. And I
yeah,
think, I think The Killer might be on his track record for being another great film, to be honest.
yeah, yeah. Very great film. I want to put a mention out there for The Social Network.
Oh, The Social Net. Oh, of course, I did
So
not
good.
mention that.
So good. Oh God, see, this is the thing. You kind of forget David Fincher directed half these films sometimes. He's so
Hmm.
good. He's yeah. All right. Well, let's talk about The Killer since we are slobbering all over Fincher already. For me, this was kind of a return to form, having seen Mank and not particularly enjoying Mank. I was happy to see The Killer be a very kind of return to that kind of perfectionist form that Fincher has,
Sure.
stylish, cool, dealing with some of the themes that he's kind of dealt with on other films, but also just being like a very lean, like there's no fat on this, a very lean affair,
hmm
which also brings back Michael Fassbender after what feels like a bit of a break from acting potentially. I feel like I haven't seen him in a film in a
Yeah, he's
few
been
years
driving
now.
rally cars for like a couple of years, hasn't he?
Is that true?
Yeah, didn't he started a YouTube channel or something, and he wanted to like devote his time into just driving rally cars.
He started a
And
YouTube channel. Why do I not know this?
I haven't seen it. I've heard that he did a YouTube channel. He was doing rally cars for a few years, and that's kind of why he's been focusing on. And now he's coming back to acting, I
I need to
suppose.
watch this. I need to watch this. I feel like the last film I remember him in was Alien Covenant,
That was
which
2017. Yeah.
2017. Which did I go see that with you?
No, I went to see that in Northern Ireland when I went back to visit my dad and my mum.
No, I must have gone seen that with one of my other Irish friends.
Yeah, who's that? I thought I was exclusive. I thought I was the token Irish friend here.
Yeah, yeah. No, I don't remember who I saw that with now. But I remember liking it at the time. But you know, when a film sometimes kind of sours an opinion after you think about it for a
Hmm.
little while.
Okay, I feel like that movie went the opposite way for me, where I wasn't sure at the beginning, and it's kind of just grown as this goofy sort of little offbeat movie that Ridley Scott did after Prometheus, which Prometheus I love
I really like
to this
Prometheus as
day.
well. Prometheus gets a lot of hate, and I understand every single point and all the logic flaws in it
Mhm.
and the stupidity that goes on. But I still kind of love Prometheus.
And Fassbender is so like electric in both of those movies. He's having like an absolute ball.
Yes,
Um,
yes.
yeah, but yeah, I mean, yes, his kind of yeah return performance for Fassbender. He's got another film coming out. Well, it's kind of doing the premiere run at the minute with Taika Waititi's new film, isn't it? Next Goal Wins, and I heard that I don't know how that film is being received, but
Mm,
yeah, he is just back doing like a good Fassbender Steve McQueen performance here. I would say it reminded me a lot of his the cool his character in Shame, that in terms of how stripped back that Fassbender plays it, and he does cold so well, which is why he's such a perfect fit for Fincher in this role.
yes,
Um,
yes. It kind of felt to me a little bit kind of Christian Bale in American Psycho. That idea that this guy's so disciplined, so set to a certain amount of rules and a certain amount of emotion, and kind of has this whole thing for himself. But it is kind of funny because as much as that is what the character perceives himself to the audience to be,
mhm.
um, this almost could be called contradiction the movie, as he does
Yes.
not abide by any of the rules that he sets. It's worth saying that the killer is about an assassin who is basically a gun for hire. He has no, um, what would you call it, like skin in the game. He
Yeah, he's
doesn't
no
really.
allegiances to any nation or flag or body of any sorts. He's just like he just wants the money and the life away from everybody else
Yeah.
that he shares with his partner that we get told
And
later.
yeah, one of his jobs goes wrong, and it is he doesn't end up killing the person he's supposed to kill, and in doing so, it almost sets off a manhunt from the organization that hired him, because I guess within his line of work, the idea is if you don't get that right, then we just got to wipe the slate clean.
Yeah.
Or we got to get rid of all traces of the idea that we hired you. So, um, yeah, it ends up integrating into his personal life after his girlfriend. I don't think she was wife, but some potential lover of
Yeah.
his gets attacked, and yeah, he kind of dismantles all of his rules and sets out for revenge.
Well, the whole thing is that like he self narrates over pretty much the entire film. I think half the screen time Fassbender's narrating over, which usually sounds a bit schlocky and could be done badly, but it works really well here.
It
Those
does.
first 20 minutes, as we're like getting kind of introduced to the job that he's on at the minute, he's assassinating this guy in a penthouse in Paris, and we see him all the setting up his daily routine. The guy's not coming out tonight. Okay, I go around do my other bits. He sleeps on a deck of on a pallet of like plasterboard during the night, and he listens to the Smiths, only the Smiths exclusively.
Yes.
um he goes to McDonald's and he doesn't eat the bab, he only eats the protein. This guy is very, very good at keeping himself into a rhythm. He has to keep his heartbeat under a certain heart rate per minute. And so you're leaning into this. You get so used to his rhythm for 20 minutes of the movie that when his opportunity comes and he fucks it up, it really does puncture the bubble, the rhythm that you're in the movie already, and it happens to him, and it's this downward spiral for the whole thing. He goes back to his villa home in Mexico. Is it Mexico or is it Dominican Republic?
I think
Dominican
it's
Republic
Dominican
he goes back
Republic.
to.
Yeah.
And yeah, before he gets back home, they beat him to it, and they've heavily assaulted his partner. She's not dead, um,
No.
but they think she's dead. It was a hit and run, and yeah, it kind of his whole house of cards collapses. The veil of this cool exterior kind of drops, and he goes on a bit of a revenge path. Not in like a Liam Neeson, like I'm gonna obviously kick the shit out of everybody. It's sort
Yeah.
of I'm gonna get this fucking thing done, and I'm gonna make sure that this does not happen again.
Yes, like the emotion that you might see in a Liam Neeson thing is very much like kept under the covers and is very much
It's
like
in the eyes, not in the face.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
You can feel it boiling at some points, ready to kind of break out, and there are moments when it almost does. But yeah, I think it was quite funny in a way to have this voiceover project this really confident, very disciplined killer at the start of the film, but then not actually show us at all him assassinate someone correctly. Like I thought the first, because I knew the film was going to be like an assassination gone wrong.
Hmm.
I thought that first section we were going to see him do it right, so that we had it in our mind, like, oh, this is the guy he says he is. But
Yes.
really, what the film does is kind of just turn that all on his head, and he is that unreliable narrator in a way of
Yeah.
like, this guy might just be full of shit, and he might just be kind of narrating this kind of bullshit to us because he's bored. Like, and
Yeah.
he mentions this a lot in the film. Like, if you don't like boredom, you can't do this job. And for the most part, I wonder if he was just bored and he was just coming up with absolute
But
drivel.
I still had that feeling though that like he was dangerous, and he does, he shows that off later on that he really is, he is a trained killer in a way.
Mm,
But yeah, you're right. I mean, that actually kind of marries over to who Fincher is as a filmmaker. His art in terms of that perfectionist persona that actors always say that he has, does 90 takes on sets, that he's quite ruthless
mm,
with his takes and everything. The camera is always really well placed, always knows where it's got to be. There's always symmetry. He knows exactly what shot he's got to perform before it's actually being shot. That kind of marries into the persona where it's like, okay, this is just an illusion that I'm making for you guys, and it's all kind of descending from there. So I can see that it's almost him sort of parodying himself in a way.
yes, yes. I've heard a lot of people talk about how it is like a meta commentary on himself, and like, a lot of people are trying to like weave a narrative of him being upset at like Fight Club not being perceived in the correct way. Like,
Okay,
like people taking Fight Club at face value and saying that like Tyler Durden was correct and all this kind of stuff.
right. And that's been
Um,
like 25 years, but
Other people have tried to weave in this narrative of the assassination gone wrong is almost a metaphor for Mank and how it was like his first miss in a way, and how he's had to go back to kind of making films how he used to in order to set the record straight. I don't know if maybe a lot of people are maybe reading into the
yeah,
killer a little bit too much.
it's loose, but it's not that intense. I think Fincher would probably sneer at some of those comments a little bit.
Yes.
But yeah, no, this is great. This is a really intense film. We obviously get performances from we get Tilda Swinton show up, who you actually got to see last week in person,
Yes, I saw on the same
coincidentally.
day as watching The Killer. I hadn't watched the trailer for The Killer in a long time, so I kind of forgot that she showed up.
Yeah.
And on the same day, she was doing a Q&A at the Watershed for Joanne Hogg's new film, The Eternal Daughter. And yeah, so I ended up doing a bit of a Tilda Swinton double bill, followed by the Q&A of The Eternal Daughter. So I was happy to see her pop up here, and then obviously see her in real life at the end of the day, which was pretty surreal.
But she's great in this film, and when she turns up, it's a typical Tilda Swinton performance, really, really impactful and powerful. But the whole movie as a whole, I felt like really sustained that intensity the whole way through. You got to think about like the first sort of half an hour, 40 minutes. You're not really in the picture. It's that rare occurrence where you're as an audience member, you're at a disadvantage to kind of everybody else on screen, but it's such a great exercise in how great he is as a filmmaker at sustaining suspense that even though you're kind of piecing this all together as you go along, you don't have the context for the assassinations or even this guy as a background, you're still really caught up in it. Like I've really felt like I leaned forward in my chair. The sound design in this movie is really crunchy and very snappy. I just felt like I was wrapped around this whole narrative and couldn't wait to see where it was going, even though I didn't know where it was going to go. So
Mm.
it's great. You know, you could probably dismiss this. I think a lot of people are dismissing The Killer simply due to how stripped back and bare bones it is compared to other Finch's work, because his films generally are quite robust. They're quite, lengthy. They have big themes and a lot of characters. But
This is
yeah, this
very
is like
genre specific for him, I would say. Like it is very much
exactly.
like killer revenge story, and there's not much more to it than that. There's not really any subplots or anything like that. It's just kind of like kill these people, make it go away.
Yeah. And a lot of people think, well, we see this every year, but we don't see it. I don't think we see it as clean cut or well done as this. We get a lot of schlock in this genre. And I think, people say, oh, it's like John Wick. Well, it's not at all, really. They're completely different creatures in themselves. And yeah, this is kind of like an old fashioned but kind of contemporary thing that's been done before, but it's got Fincher's little twist on it. I think it's a lot of fun, and it's great to see Fassbender back doing intense again. I think that's where he's best. He is enthralling but kind of scary on screen. You don't know what he's going to do next. And whenever we do get to see him fight in this movie, there is a fight scene that happens where he is
Yes,
killing a guy in Florida, and there's a dog involved, and it is one of the best choreographed fight scenes I've seen this year. It is really like crunchy and very visceral and flinching a lot of the time.
yeah, like it feels like the punches hurt. Like
Yes.
I physically kind of like winced every time he was being punched. It literally looked so painful to watch,
Yeah, like it's
and it's
50. He gets a lot of punches too. Like this is like somebody's gonna drop at some point, and these two guys don't drop, and it's just like how are these two human beings experiencing this pain? And I don't, you kind of just feel like you're watching a real life or death situation. I thought it
yeah.
was really impressive.
And sets get destroyed. It feels like a struggle. Yeah, it felt like a proper fight. It was,
Yeah,
yeah, that was one of my favorite moments in the film, which I know is kind of pretty basic of me to say because it's just like an action scene in a film that's
but it's
not
it's a
full of
movie
action
where
scenes. But I just loved how visceral and bone crunching it was.
I think because Fincher has already kind of set you up into thinking that, right, anything can happen in a scene.
Mm,
It's either going to go right for this guy or wrong. We've seen it go both ways a few times up until this moment.
yeah,
So, like, it's not too late for the rug to be pulled underneath us. So you are just on the edge of your seat. So yeah, this I thought this thing was really great. And I think it's a shame that obviously it did play in limited release, but it's a shame that most people, myself included, got to experience this via Netflix because I think this is a very cinematic movie, and I see people saying that you don't need to watch it on the big screen, but I kind of wish I did. I enjoyed it that way.
yeah, yeah. I also saw it on Netflix, and yeah, I mean, I'm not saying you have to rush
It's
out
a
and see
it's
it
a
in the
good
cinema.
looker. It's a
It is.
looker.
It's a nice looking film. Yeah, and yeah, I don't know. It's based on a graphic novel. Did you know that? Based on a graphic novel.
Very funny you say that because I didn't know that going into it. I didn't say it. Me and Lauren watched it together. We sat on the sofa. I was thinking it halfway through the movie, and I said to Lauren, doesn't this like it kind of looks like a comic book? It feels like
Mm,
the way it's framed, the way it's shot, it feels like a graphic novel. And afterwards, she looked it up and said, "Oh, this is based on a graphic novel." It's like that makes sense because it looks like one come to life.
yes, I do wonder what drew him to it. I'd love to know that. There must be a Q and
Well,
A
like
out there somewhere.
I've heard people say that too. Why this project? But
Mm,
isn't it the common thread with all of his movies? Is I think obsession is a really big part of his
yeah,
movies. These
yeah,
characters that are so fixated on getting to a certain point, and at all costs, that everything else kind of slips away. Um, yeah, maybe there's something to that. Maybe he's got some. Maybe that's a self confessional thing that people are talking about behind the scenes that they're trying to grasp onto. But I feel like this was in line with, like, it reminded me of Gyllenhaal's character in the Zodiac, or or Brad Pitt in Seven. Like those kind of guys that are really will stop at nothing to get what they want.
yes, yeah. No, I can see that. I can see that. As a good way of putting it, obsession. And I can see that through all his films actually. And I didn't really think about that before. That makes
Well,
a lot of
I
sense.
can't say about Mank though. I don't know if that's about as
No. Oh,
obsessed.
100%. 100%. That
Okay.
theme runs through Mank. That theme runs through The Social Network. That theme even runs through The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo.
And that alien is obsessed.
That alien is obsessed.
It's hungry.
I'm trying to think of other things. The Game. There's definitely obsession in The Game. I only watched that
Social
recently.
Network, obviously.
I said that already, Chris.
Oh, okay.
Were you not listening to me?
No, it wouldn't be the first time.
No, it wouldn't be. Jesus. Curious Case of Benjamin Button.
I guess so. I haven't seen that movie since
I was about to say I can't remember.
2009. I need to watch that. People are reappraising that as a great film. I need to
Maybe
watch that
there's
again.
less obsession in Gone Girl, but you do have like that very kind of clinical.
I mean, she's obsessed.
She is obsessed. Is she obsessed? Is she obsessed? She
She
obsessed
well,
with running away.
it's a whole game though, isn't it?
She's a
She's
girl
playing a whole.
obsessed with being gone.
Yeah, but she doesn't. Her end game is not to be gone. It's to have him in her grasp.
Yeah. There you go. There you go. There you go. New perspective on all of David Fincher's films.
Well, I don't think it's new. I'm sure people have had it
I was
before.
about to say, people are probably screaming at me right now, like, call yourself a cinephile.
We worked this out 10 years ago.
We knew this from film 1.
We knew it's from Alien 3.
Oh, God. All right. Well, so you would recommend our listeners The Killer?
I would very strongly recommend it. I think it's a great film.
A strong recommend from me as well. So the next film we're going to be reviewing, as mentioned already, is Anatomy of a Fall, directed by Justine Triet. And this one won big at the Cannes Film Festival. It won the Palme d'Or, which is the big one, isn't it? I don't
Yeah.
always
It's
remember what the
the
Cannes one is.
yeah,
That's the big. That's the
jury
biggie.
prize, isn't it?
It also won the Palme Dog Award for Best Dog in a Film.
I can see why. It's a good dog.
It's a very good dog.
And
Best canine performance in a film at the
and
Cannes Film
perhaps
Festival.
suffered for the art.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I need to read into that one.
Yes. Did it make you think of Satan Tango?
Oh, you know what?
A little bit.
A little bit.
A
No,
little bit.
no, that was a cat though. We
Yeah,
watched
I
another
know it was
one
a
where
cat. I know
we've
it was a
watched.
cat.
We've bound. I think we've bound to have watched one with something bad happened to a dog, right?
Yeah, but not like actually
I've
in
seen a
real life.
giraffe
bad
shot in the
happen.
neck.
Yeah, I know, but not actually bad happened to a dog. Like the cat where we know it definitely got drugged.
Okay. Yes.
So when I worked at a vet company and and I watched neuterings happen within a vet practice, the dogs looked like that when they were given like whatever it is to put them to not put them to sleep, make them go under for
Yeah.
for like surgery. Yeah, with the tongue poking out and everything.
Yeah. Well, for anyone listening, that a dog ODs in this movie. That's what we're referring to.
Yes,
Not
yeah. Should we get
intentionally. The
should we
dog
get into
doesn't
the
have like
plot?
problems.
Yeah, we should get into the plot. We straight
Yeah.
away just jumped onto the animal, the animalness of it all. There you go. So the Anatomy of a Fool follows Sandra, who is suspected of her husband's maybe murder, maybe accidental death, after he falls out of a window in their lovely chalet in the French Alps. And basically, the only witness of this case is their son, who is, I don't think he's fully blind, but
He's
he's
partially
partially
blind.
blind.
They're not specific, but like they dance around the fact that he's partially blind.
Yes, it doesn't. Yeah, I definitely does say like lost the majority of his sight in an accident at some point.
Yes.
And yeah, so it is a French film, but a lot of the film actually takes place. A lot of the film is in the English language, mainly because Sandra is German and her husband, who dies, is French. But their kind of middle ground for the relationship was they speak English, so
Yes.
she knows more English than she does French. And obviously, when they go into the trial, it's kind of a mix of both because it's a French trial, but she can only get so far with her kind of French language.
Yes, and there's like maybe a bias towards that too. I think the movie kind of I read online it was 65% uh, English and 35% French, but to me when I watched it, it kind of felt really 50-50. Um, Not that that matters at all. I think the whole thing's really enthralling. I'm really glad we got the chance to see it because I think it was the last night it was showing before its end of its short run. Definitely in multiplexes anyway.
Mm.
So really glad I caught up with it. I was really excited for this because I had heard a lot of really good stuff about it. I think there's a lot of smoke being blown up this movie. Um, I kind of get on board with it. I really thought this was a real intense sort of dissection of the old kind of Hollywood movie with that contemporary feel. It's very, it's cinematic, but it's not overdone. It's really
Mm.
well written. I think it really hangs on some amazing, amazing performances. Sandra Hüller is incredible in this. I think this is the best, one of the best, better performances of the year.
If
Um,
yeah, if not the best, she is. Yeah, she is incredible in this role. Considering she's in nearly every shot, and obviously
yeah, I suppose so.
it's a very talky film, because it is for the most part a courtroom drama. Um, and there is just so much going on. And also the other fact is that you as the audience don't know whether she killed him or not. For a minute,
No,
you think maybe you are point of view of the jury. I think the argument could be made that we're maybe more point of view as her son Daniel, just with the fact that we get a little bit more insight than the jury does. But you are observing her the whole time, like everyone else is in the
exactly.
film. You are watching for facial features. You're in the early aftermath of the death of her husband. You are you looking at everything. You're like, is she crying? Is she not crying? Has she cried enough? Is she,
Hmm.
you are looking for clues in every single frame of this picture. And it, like you said, it's a really well done film in terms of like it's very clinical in the way it dissects this fall,
Yeah,
the
it really
anatomy
does.
of it
Yeah,
in a way, but also still quite cinematic in scope and grandeur. um yeah, really solid film, and yeah, leaves you kind of guessing the whole time and trying to figure it out. And I kind of love that the film put you in this place of like you too get to judge whether you
mm.
feel, but we're not going to make you feel happy about that. Like you're also going to feel a bit icky for having to kind of
Yeah,
follow this
yeah.
journey at the same
It's
time.
it's a very unsettling film, isn't it? Especially when you're dealing with a lot of innocent people, sort of involved. Well, not a lot of, it's a small cast, but we have Daniel, the son, who is a real victim of this tragic story. Having to be a part of this trial, being kind of paraded around these courtrooms, being although he's quite a brave, young, intelligent man for everything he's gone through, he is kind of just paraded around and having to listen to all the hardships that his parents kind of went through, all the events leading up to, and actually just reliving the event itself. All the while, his father's dead at the end of the
Yeah,
day. Um,
and his
uh,
mother is being accused by everyone that she potentially murdered him. And there's, I think most people in the film assume she's guilty.
yeah, exactly. And Daniel's definitely not that way at the beginning, but you can feel the weight of that pressure kind of getting to him as the movie goes along. I think as soon as his father dies, he goes to his mother to hug her. He goes to bed crying that night, and he lets her tuck him in, and there's still that absolute admiration that my mother could not have done this. And I think the genius of the movie really is in Huller's performance because we could get this very winky film that could be like her looking at the camera, her looking shifty, but sometimes being sweet. And, we could get a real 50-50 Jekyll and Hyde performance here. But no, I think from the very beginning, her performance feels very sincere. It feels very
Mm,
natural. It speaks to her volumes as an actor. But the genius of the film is that the evidence that's presented towards the obscurity of what happened, the weirdness of his death, is just enough doubt in there that there's that 1% room where until we get confirmation at the end of the film, and yeah, I'm not sure we do, you still don't feel you still don't feel like you completely trust her. You know, we know human beings, and human beings are capable of amazing things, and even convincing themselves. You know, I feel 99% warm to her this whole movie, and she seems so genuine. But it's the seed of doubt. You know, you don't know until you know, and that's kind of the whole card this movie's playing.
Yeah.
And you know, he fell out the window, but there's a lot of evidence that the way he fell out, the blood splatters don't really match, and you know, a slip and fall. Is it suicide? We get those pieces as the movie goes along, and the picture does become a little bit more clearer. But yeah, it's just gripping the whole way through, and really, really uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable to see people be so willing to go up to the witness stand and damn a person because it's
Yeah.
comfortable and it fits the narrative. And I think that stuff is even more chilling than the murder or suicide or whatever it was itself.
Yes, the French court system, at least in how it's portrayed in this film,
It's
seems
very
very
theatrical.
it's very crazy. A lot of theories are just thrown around like, well, she could have done this. You have little to no evidence to back up any of this, and they're just throwing around these theories. And I think it's one of those. If you've seen the trailer, I think she says it in the trailer where she says like, all of this is just such a small part of our relationship. Like you weren't there. You've got a small piece of it. You don't know how much we've been through.
Mhm.
And I think that's probably one of the elements of the film that kind of works on the audience as well. Is that and just showcases just how good the performances are. Is that you truly believe that you're not seeing the whole picture, and you truly believe that these characters had a life before this moment and are going to have a life after this moment. Um, and there's so much more there that the film doesn't show you, but it's all in the way they act. And I just it honestly didn't break the illusion for one minute for me.
Yeah, and there's this scene that's they build up to this moment that her husband had a lot of, you know, they had a lot of contention in their relationship about, you know, she's a writer and she became kind of successful of a book that was originally his idea, but he never kind of took it to fruition, and that she borrowed elements, and he really resented her for kind of taking an idea that perhaps he might never really been productive on. There's a big argument that he saved a conversation that they had on his pen drive, and they play out to the court, and it's a really interesting moment because we actually see her husband kind of talking for the first time in frame, and we instead of hearing it for the court, we actually go to the scene and we witness the conversation, and then it turns violent at the end,
Mm,
and instead of playing the violence out, it goes back to the courtroom, and we as an audience have to make up who's hitting who, or he's, you know, who's throwing what, and it casts an interesting light on yourself. Like, where do you kind of fall on the fence in that situation?
yeah,
And it's telling you, here's the facts, but you don't know the facts. And yeah, it's just it's a fascinating play on a genre that's been done loads and loads of times, and I think it finds new enough stuff, and I think the performances are so good, and the camera does what it needs to do when it needs to do it, apart from a couple of little interesting little quick zooms that happen in the courtroom from time to time that might look a little bit goofy. But no, for the most part, this is like a masterful little courtroom drama. Definitely worth catching up with.
yeah. Going back to what you were saying about the argument and how you see some of it and how you don't see some of it. This is why I truly do believe that the film is I know we have scenes where he's not there, but I think for the most part, this is Daniel's point of view. I think that scene where we're seeing
Yes.
them argue is maybe him even imagining it, because he knows who his mum is, he knows who his dad is, but as soon as the violence happens, he wouldn't even know, with his visual impairment, who was hitting who.
Mhm.
So we have to go back to reality in that situation. And I must say as well, Milo Machado Grainer, who plays Daniel, yeah, one of the child performances of the year. I'm trying to think of other child performances now.
I
I don't
think the
know who
last
he's
the
beaten,
last
but
time
he was
I,
very good.
I think the last time that we were both sort of as enthralled by child performance probably being Close, that we watched earlier in the
Yes,
year.
yes, yeah.
Again, another European film that kind of has an outstanding a couple of child performances in that film. But yeah, he's incredible. It's his maturity. lack of naivety, but I think that's kind of, I think it's growing up with two parents that are so fiercely intelligent and strong-willed creates that in a young boy, and the
Mm.
hardships that he's been through. So I felt that was justified, and yeah, having the whole film sort of framed for his perspective and his mother, I think was really really clever. Yeah, and it added this intensity as to, not just are you getting the story of what's going to happen to Sandra, but also, is she going to have her son at the end of this? So yeah, this was just, I was gripped from start to finish. We had a part. We went with a party of people. Some people were our partners were probably like a little bit more, like it went on a little bit too long. I
Yeah.
guess I can see that argument too. I kind of felt like there was a little bit of a fidgety atmosphere in our screening when we went to see it on
Oh, the
Thursday
guy on
night.
his phone. God, that guy on his phone. I hate him. I hate him. Anybody who uses their phone in the cinema.
Yeah, it's a cardinal sin in of itself, but like he had it on full brightness, like it was neon. That thing.
And anytime the film kind of got to a moment where it was like transitioning slowly, he'd
Yeah,
flick it
like
on.
people going down, sitting in court seats or something like
Yeah.
that. He was like,
Like,
film time.
this is the kind of thing you do at home, which is a shame. And I catch myself doing it because, like,
Yeah.
your attention span isn't what it is in the cinema. But this guy, I don't know. The cinema's not your home, man.
I mean, did you not get what film he was watching? The film is literally about visual clues. Like half of it. It's the little things, and it's like, oh well. Anyway, he by the end of the movie, the credits are rolling. We're going down the stairs, and he's on his phone again. He's sitting on the chair, and he's looking up an article about the movie.
God damn it.
I'm like, I can tell because the poster of the movie's on his phone, and he's reading like some review about it. I'm like, what?
Anyway, that all this is to say that the film has a tendency to run a little long. It's 2.5 hours. I didn't mind it. I don't know if
Same.
I would have trimmed it. I didn't mind it. It is definitely slower. In the same way that I can see this, I could have seen this as like a HBO show as well, like a 3-episode miniseries. I feel that was the only other thing I would say about this film. Even though it was masterfully done, we have seen courtroom dramas before, and we have seen them done very similar to this. I'm not saying
Okay.
it wasn't good. I'm just saying I've seen it done, but it was very well done.
I think it has the poignancy at moments that only a film can achieve. I think TV has its limits at times with that. And I think having like a 2.5 hour sort of journey kind of got me there. But at the end
Yeah,
of the day, there's a scene a backflash scene that Daniel has with his father when they're talking about their dog Snoop, that is really really poignant. And I think because I had the journey, I got to that moment in the space of like an hour and a half. I think that got me there, as opposed to like if I'd watched that at the start of a second episode. I don't know if I would have felt that impact as much. And that's just for me. I think other people might be different. If you binge it might have been differently, but yeah,
yeah,
I get what you mean though. Courtroom dramas have been done as TV, and it works really well. And HBO would be good at that sort of thing.
yeah. It's not to go against the film. I think it's a really really brilliant film.
I think it's great. I think
If
it's awesome.
you've got to criticize it for something, maybe that's all I have, and that's yeah yeah. It
Yeah,
doesn't mean it's not a great film. Will it make my top 10? Potentially. I'll let you know
potentially
at the end of the year.
at this moment it would for me.
It would for me too. I'd not top
Um,
three though. Would it make you top three?
I think it could be like a five, like a top five sort of slot. Um, but no, I don't know top three. I don't know. I don't know this. I think all the good stuff's maybe gonna come. I don't know. We watch most of everything on January anyway
Yeah.
because we don't get it till
We
till
don't
then.
have long left. We don't have
We
long
don't.
left of the year, but we're slowly thinking about those year in review lists.
Yeah, yeah. Let's get it ready already. Yeah, it's been a strange year though. I feel like the beginning of the year was, we had some really good stuff like the Canon, and then we had a slump, and then, I don't know. There's just, you can't really gauge years anymore. But yeah, we're definitely getting like a ramp up of really quality stuff coming out at the minute, and I've still got loads and loads to catch up with. So I can't even give you an answer on that.
Oh
My
no.
December is probably going to be like every day going to be catching up with something wall to wall.
Big
So yeah,
catch up. Big catch up to make sure All lists are relevant.
Last film of the evening, Alex.
Yes, let's get into it.
As you may or may not know, Kris and I are not in the same room currently. So when we wanted to start a podcast together, we needed a platform that was able to record high quality audio online and separately, and also gave us the illusion that we may even be in a studio together.
I don't remember exactly how we came across Zencaster, but we've been using it since day one, and it's never let us down. It's easy to record a podcast with Zencaster. You log in using your browser and start recording a high quality podcast right away. Record studio quality sound and up to 4K video with your guests. Feel a sense of zen knowing Zencaster's multi layered backups ensure you always have your recordings in the highest quality, even if the connection is unstable.
If you've ever thought about podcasting before and realized that you need a lot of different tools and services, those days are over. With Zencaster's all-in-one podcasting platform, you can create your podcast all in one place and distribute to Spotify, Apple, and other major destinations.
Zencaster is one of the greatest tools used at the Film Angle, and that's why we wanted to share the love with you.
So go to zencaster.com/pricing and use our code TheFilmAngle, and you'll get 30% off your first month of any Zencaster paid plan. I want you to have the same easy experiences that we do for all our podcasting and content needs. It's time to share your story.
Back to the show.
So, our final film that we're reviewing today on the episode of this podcast, The Film Angle. Sorry, I don't know what I'm doing. We are reviewing May December, the new Todd Haynes film. This comes. What was his most recent film? I'm trying to think. What was the last film that we saw Todd Haynes do? I think it was Dark Waters, wasn't it? Which I didn't see.
Yes, I hadn't seen either, but I heard good things.
Yeah, and then before that, it must have been Wonderstruck, and then before that, Carol. But I feel like
he also did the Velvet Underground documentary, if you count that, which was really well received. But yeah,
I don't know. What's the Velvet Underground documentary?
It came out 2 years ago about the band. Really highly regarded documentary that came out 2 years ago. But yeah, again, I hadn't seen that either.
Oh no, I didn't even know about that. There you go.
And he wrote and directed that. So yeah, it was Dark Waters, Wonderstruck, Carol before that as well. So
yes.
Yeah, I think the last movie I would have watched of his would have been Wonderstruck, which I really liked.
Yes, and he kind of is teaming back up here with Julianne Moore, which is always a great thing. So May December follows the Natalie Portman. It follows Natalie Portman mainly, who is an actress who is going to be playing the part of Julianne Moore's character Gracie in a film about her life. And the whole thing about her life is that she had a very notorious kind of tabloid drama affair because she, as an adult married woman, ended up sleeping with and then marrying a very young, I think they say 13-year-old at the time.
13-year-old boy, yeah.
And obviously goes to prison for that because that is illegal. But we do find her in her life 20 years afterwards, living with said now man, with their multiple children. And obviously a film being made about her life, and Natalie Portman wants to get a sense of who she is and, the kind of family dynamics.
Yeah.
And in her coming to town and essentially dredging up the past, it kind of crumbles the foundations of this kind of seemingly happy life that Gracie has with her husband, who is played by Charles Melton of Riverdale fame, may I say.
Yeah. And he's slowly, like, he's a bubbling personality in this that, like, he's quite stoic at the beginning, and as he's kind of given a bit more like as the story kind of progresses, he's given it a little bit more agency. He's really, really good in this movie. I think everyone's really good in this movie.
He's great. Sometimes it's difficult to get out of the CW TV shows and make it as a performer. But yeah, it was great to see him here and just show off his acting chops. Probably the emotional crux of the film is his performance.
Yeah, he does get like an explosive like realization of a moment later on in the movie.
He gets the most kind of empathy, I think, and sympathy, which, fair enough. Whereas I think Julianne Moore definitely is quite a cold character.
She's vilified in this for sure.
And Natalie Portman's actress character is also, despite the fact that everybody likes her to begin with,
gray.
She's not that likable to watch. And definitely the film delves into that kind of vampiric idea of what actors do, you know, kind of leeching the life out of somebody and making it your own thing. Yeah, she's a very interesting character. And Todd Haynes films it with a kind of very schlocky kind of vibe to it. It's very playful in the way that he frames and zooms in on some of the shots, and very playful in the way he uses music.
Severely grainy film as well.
Yeah.
It looks like a 90s, at times it looks like a 90s home video, and the music emulates that as well. Like the music's very over the top with these big electric violin stings that come in, and it sounds like it was made on a keyboard, and it's so over the top. It's a lot of fun.
Yes, it's interesting. You didn't know whether you were going to get like another kind of very highly stylized Far From Heaven, or whether this was his kind of giallo pick.
Or a Love Witch sort of thing going on.
The film plays around with all these kind of different genre themes. I wouldn't say it fully settles on one in the end.
Yeah, I think it plays with about 3 or 4. Yeah,
it probably needed to, but it doesn't take away from the film. And do you know what? We watched this the day after watching Anatomy of a Fool, and I thought it was the much needed palate cleanser after a very kind of serious, straightforward drama, to see something that's very kind of still serious but playful, and not just in performance but in kind of filmmaking style as well.
He's very good at the mundanity, or the how exaggerated mundanity can be, that suburbia, that sort of domestic life. He's very good at making it seem very overly. Like, even when you think of things like Carol, or a movie I caught up with his, or one of his early 90s ones with Julianne Moore, Safe, he's very good at like capturing how kind of absurd suburbia is in general. And even though this on paper, if you look this movie up and see stills of it, it looks very kind of, it looks like a pedestrian movie, but it's kind of one of the most unique looking and feeling movies I have seen this year. And you're so right, that's what makes it such a palate cleanser, because you don't know what vibe you're settling on, but you're kind of going along for the groove anyway. Like, this is 2 of the fastest hours that kind of went past for me this year. And I think that's just how you don't know where the story's gonna go, and the performance is so good. Natalie Portman, like you said, you want to like her because she's Natalie Portman, but she does come across as really kind of apathetic. Like, when she talks to people, she comes across as like somebody who really is, like, I'm really listening to you, what your story's so tragic, I want to listen to you. But she just looks very glazed over half the time. It's very like there's a false persona to her. She every time she looks at a mirror, she's just trying to like emulate or copy what Julianne Moore is trying to do, and she's so obsessed with trying to create a good performance as opposed to actually. She keeps saying, "I just want to tell your story. I want to get behind the truth." All the buzzwords that we hear in the cheesiest interviews that actors give on promotional tours. We hear here, and she's really good at that.
Yes, and it is kind of a facade, isn't it? I think at the end of the day, she wants some juice. She wants obviously to emulate the performance, but she also wants some more information. She wants something the public doesn't know, and she'll go to kind of whatever lengths she can to kind of drag that out of people.
And she does, yeah.
It's funny. The film is on Letterboxd. It's classed as a drama comedy. But I would also put psychological thriller in there somewhere.
There's it gets scary at some points. Julianne Moore is very good at like the odd time she has to kind of go into the comical villain persona, and she does that very well. There's she has this house of cards. She bakes these cakes for the community. She seems very successful, very happy and comfortable in the relationship. She even says to Natalie Portman that she's like hyper secure. Everybody else is insecure. But we learn later on through Natalie kind of probing everybody in the neighborhood that they actually just buy these cakes out of sympathy. That if you actually check the orders, they're all the same people. Or else everything would probably crumbling. Then she'd probably, and we get the scene where he who's the young guy? Who's her husband called again?
So that's Charles Melton. So Joe.
So Joe comes home and he seems like quite a doting husband considering his life situation. He comes home and she's absolutely having a meltdown because a person's cancelled their order because they're moving house, which is a pretty sensible reason to cancel order, but they're still going to pay her. So she completely collapses and it goes hysterical, crying fits because the cake is going to be ruined and she wasted a few hours, and it really gives us an insight into what this guy has to deal with when she's not on and kind of performing in front of everybody else. And I think that's the real turning point in the movie where we're really on his side and kind of really want him to be. And there's this really over the top strong metaphor. The opening title credits kind of focuses on this kind of aviary of bugs. He keeps caterpillars as a hobby, but she just always dismisses it and calls them his bugs. But the caterpillars are obviously, he talks about chrysalises and them kind of transforming into butterflies, and that's kind of what's happening in this story. But it didn't feel over the top to me because that's kind of the tone of the movie is very over the top at times. But yeah, it's hard. I can't say it's perfect. It doesn't get everything right because you're right. You can't really have your finger on the pulse of this thing, but you just kind of enjoy the weird ride that you're on anyway.
Yes, yeah. I would describe it as, when you're on summer holiday, like on a beach somewhere,
yeah,
and you just pick up like a book from the bestsellers list on Waterstones in the airport, and it's just some kind of like thriller about a small town. Something mysterious has happened, and you are a character kind of slowly filtering your way through a cast of characters to kind of find out what the mystery is. It felt like reading one of those books. And there's nothing, that's not a criticism. I love that. I love those stupid schlocky books.
Yeah.
And I love this very silly schlocky film.
Yeah, it's just like those books. It's a movie for nosy people, isn't it? It's a movie of it is. It's a movie of rumors. That's what it is. You're going through the rumors and trying to get to the
you want to know what the gossip is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like a Desperate House. It's like an artsy Desperate Housewives episode.
Oh, I kind of love that. Oh, and then you get to you're like, what does her son do? Why he's weird. He's been emotionally traumatized by all this, and he's strange. And what does this person do? The son, by the way, don't know if you ever watched Gotham. Another was it? CW?
I did not see Gotham. I've seen clips of Gotham, but I have not watched
He played the Riddler in that. He's very different in that, and he's very different in this. I liked it. I liked him. He was good. Corey Michael Smith, yeah, very good. Plays the son Georgie. But this is just like it is a place to allow characters to kind of be very playful with their performances and true character acting. I would say in this.
Yeah, and it is just like a Todd Haynes movie, and he can keep making these kind of movies because I enjoy them, and I don't think many people make these kind of movies. I think he's he definitely is. I think he can give him the class of auteur. He's in his own little wheelhouse. I like this a lot. I don't know if people will love it. Like I feel like you have to kind of be on board with what it is from the beginning. We were laughing at the beginning of this movie because maybe uncomfortably so because there's a shot of her just like opening the fridge and then it's a quick zoom into her and she's like, I ran out of hot dogs. And it's we think we're going to be up for that for the rest of the movie, but then it turns into something else, comes back to that. Like I said, it's a mix of tones. They're all kind of fun. The movie's a good time.
Yeah. You don't know whether to laugh or not. I think that's it with the film, isn't it? Like you're like, is this supposed to be funny?
Yes.
Am I supposed to be laughing? And again, that's not a criticism.
No, it's
I
not
would
a
say
criticism,
my
actually.
biggest criticism of the film is that the film does end in a way that kind of made me go, okay, are we not? Is there not more of a?
Where the movie thinks like it's a bigger punch than it is at the end. It feels like
Yeah,
the movie's onto something more than it actually is.
like I knew like certain characters and where they might go next, and I'm fine with a bit of ambiguity to that. But there was part of me that didn't feel fully satisfied by the ending, and part of it left me cold a little bit.
I think I would, yeah. I think with the tone of the movie, a cataclysmic, more crescendo-y ending, one that kind of went into full schlock, would have been a bit more fun. Maybe get a little bit of violence that we might have been teased earlier on in the movie.
Yes,
Like I was bubbling a little bit. I would have liked to seen Julianne Moore kind of really chew up the scenery, maybe the last 20 minutes with, and yeah. I would,
That being said, maybe Todd Haynes' next film is the film about Gracie's life with Natalie Portman starring in it. And
we're going full like X and Pearl mode, are we?
I would love to see that. Wouldn't you?
Yeah, that actually would be really, really cool, actually.
I would love to see that. I feel like that would be satisfying.
Oh, yeah.
Because you've seen the film about the making of the film, but then you're watching the film that's, it's Natalie Portman playing an actress. Portman. Natalie Portman.
No, I get you. That actually sounds like a really fun idea. I think you should get on the phone to Mr. Haynes.
I will. And I'm just telling you now, Natalie Portman.
You're a good actor.
What an interesting role where you, Natalie Portman, are playing an actress, playing a person who was played by another actress, pretending to be a person in a film.
Yeah. I mean, wouldn't that be a confusing sequel to walk in on if you hadn't seen the first?
Yeah, it probably would be. That's interesting.
Like, I think we're 3 for 3 tonight. I think we had a good time at the cinema last week, and I think there's all 3 of these films we can strongly recommend.
Yeah,
and in their own way. If you're the right person for each of these movies, because they're all very different.
Yes, we purposely left out the review this evening of Five Nights at Freddy's, where we sat down and watched that the other night, to make sure that this was
Is that next week's episode?
I don't know.
Do I have to relive that?
A very positive episode for the film world. Because you know what? We need some positivity in the film world.
What are you talking about, positivity in the film world? Are you saying that the movie that we watched was positive for the film world, or what are you saying?
Just to see good films that are in cinemas and people can watch them now. After.
But it seems like the bad ones always do really well at the minute.
Yeah,
I'm looking at you, Mario.
Yeah, probably going to be the film that makes the most money this year, I imagine.
Even more than Barbie. I guess it isn't the highest grossing animated film of all time now, though, isn't it? It made over $1 billion.
Barbie did as well. Yeah. Battle between them. One of them's much better than the other.
Yeah. I won't disagree. There's no joke or pun to be made there.
I've not even seen Mario, and I'm making the judgment.
I've seen Mario. You don't have to see Mario.
I do want to see it at some point.
All right.
I should. Anyway, but yeah, we're keeping, like you said, 3 for 3 on the film angle tonight. Go watch The Killer on Netflix. Go to your local independent cinema and watch Anatomy of a Fall.
Yeah.
And May, December, playing in it was only playing in Showcase in Bristol.
I think it's a similar sort of story to Anatomy of a Fall. It was showing in some multiplexes, but you probably will be able to catch up with it on some independent cinemas towards the end of the month as well.
But it is distributed by Sky One, which means at some point it'll be on Sky Movies.
Is it the first good Sky produced movie?
I don't know. What are the other ones? I can't think of.
They usually do whenever you see those 4D movies, you get carnival rides like Tad the Explorer or something like that. They usually do things like that. Like the main voice actor for a pigeon is John Cleese or something like that. That's usually their sort of shtick, but they seem to be trying to get into this sort of. This is a good movie. So
interesting.
I'm not sure Sky cinema audiences are really May December audiences. might shoot myself in the foot there.
I don't know. Like you said, it's the Desperate Housewives done arty, or whatever you said earlier.
True.
I
But anybody
butchered
who
your
pays £30
analogy.
a month for 10 movies is a bit insane by my books.
Yeah.
Sorry.
We're never getting sponsored now, God.
Rupert Murdoch hates us.
That's fine. Go follow us on Instagram at The Film Angle or TikTok at The Film Angle as well. Rate and review us if you can, please. It all helps with getting seen and getting heard and getting new listeners on board. So yeah, if you could do that, that'd be great. But that's been The Film Angle for this week. I'm Alex.
And I'm Chris.
Good night.
Good night. Au revoir.